following is a mold making and casting demonstration by ComposiMold.
So shall we begin? We're going to talk to you a little bit. We're going to start off talking about reusable mold making materials. And we have the ComposiMold and we have the ImPRESSive Putty, the two materials for mold making materials. And we'll talk about how to make a basic mold. We're going to give little tiny molds for everybody to do, and then talk about how to do more complicated molds and expand from there. And then after we do the ComposiMold mold, we're going to do an ImPRESSive Putty mold. First of all, my guard helped me melt ComposiMold. We stuck it in for 2 minutes for the big size here, and it's not completely melted. There'll be a solid in between there, but they'll be good enough. So why don't you guys do this? Grab a shape from here. One of these shapes is what you're going to start with, and the reason being is we want you to start with something simple. The idea is ComposiMold is reusable. So start simple. The number one tip is start simple, go to complex. You can always remelt it. It's never going to go bad. Maybe someday it'll go bad. But you can always just redo it, melt it again. The idea of simple is anything with a relief sculpture. So what you have there is as simple as you can get. It's flat with a little bit of 3 dimensions. But relief sculpture can be, these still count as simple because it is a flat surface. And you won't have to do much for the mold, you just push it out. You get more complicated. These guys, they still. Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. You can use ComposiMold for any complexity, from a 1-part mold, which is what we'll be doing, to a 2-part mold or 3-part mold, however you want to do it. Like this is still a relief sculpture, but it's a little bit complicated because of the hole in the center there. But other than that, it's just not that hard. Pretty basic. Just the clay is just being used to hold it down because if it floats in water, it'll float in ComposiMold. It's a way to think of it, about the same densities.
Oh, so you stick that on the back?
Stick it on the back, push it onto the bottom. And squish it right down, and that's just to hold it in place. Hot glue is a little bit better to use. But this is the way that we can all do it. If we do a hot glue gun there, we need it. Make sure it's not touching the sides. So basically in the center. So then we melt the ComposiMold. Every ComposiMold comes with an instruction sheet. Depending on the size, this is the 40-ounce container size. Oh, actually I have to talk about the kinds too. And there's a 20-ounce size of it, and there's a 10-ounce size of it. And we also have a 6-ounce size of it, these sizes as well. There's 4 different kinds of ComposiMolds. We're using the Flex for soft casting materials. All the ComposiMolds are food contact safe. So Flex is the softest, most flexible. So if you're doing something with a lot of undercuts, anybody know what I mean by undercuts? That's a good example. This guy has undercuts around, so up and around is an undercut. So if there's a lot of undercuts, a more flexible material will allow you to get around there. Then there's food contact and original. The secret is those are the same materials labeled as food contact, so that in cake decorating stores, chocolate stores, they have a version that's specifically for them. But any of these will work for foods. Food like a lot of cake decorators use fondant. There's chocolate, of course, modeling chocolates, gum paste. So those are the same, a little bit firmer. That's the original. If you're in doubt of what ComposiMold to get, you get the original because it works for pretty much everything. It's why it's the original, because it's not too flexible. But some people like firmer versions of it. A lot of people they're used to the other materials that they want really firm version of it. If you're doing polymer clay push molds, if you're doing like instant morph and you want to push it into a mold, that'll work for this. The original will work as well for that. And you can make all of them firmer by chilling them a little bit, and they'll get harder in the refrigerator freezer too. Yeah. Behind Virginia. Yes. Yes. Put it on your bread. It's perfect for your bread. Just you want to fill it up about a quarter with the smaller molds, about a quarter of an inch over the top of it. That is probably enough. The smaller the less you put in it, the faster it's going to cool. A bubble, usually paper clip or a toothpick, and just sort of pull it away from the side. The ones on the surface, it doesn't matter.
Okay, the big bubble pop. How do we get it off my hand?
Let it. Oh, that's another good question. If it's on your hands, let it cool a little. Let it cool on your hands, and then it'll just peel right off.
Oh, fun. Fingerprints.
Yeah. So ComposiMold is. I didn't go through the whole spiel of that. I was supposed to do the song. I was supposed to go along with ComposiMold. Don't Well, ComposiMold is eco-friendly, reusable, biodegradable. So the song is supposed to go along. I'm not going to do it, but it goes along with one-eyed, one-horned, flying purple people eater. So I won't do it. It's bad. But it's biodegradable. So if it does get on your hands, or if you spill it, let it solidify, peel it back up, and if it goes on the floor, don't use it for food after that. But it's still remeltable, reusable, and it's also biodegradable in an aqueous solution, aqueous environment. A really good example of an aqueous environment is your dishwasher. Don't wash your molds in a dishwasher because it will disappear. We got to wash your mold, use a cold wet washcloth, wipe it away. If you're doing chocolate, like the dark chocolate, and then you go to white chocolate, cold wet washcloth, wipe it away, remelt it, and then you're good. If you have like particles of plaster of Paris in there or something, use a filter. Cheesecloth is a great way of filtering it. Or a paint filter. Don't use, a lot of people ask if they can use the coffee filters. It won't go through a coffee filter. It's too fine. But a medium size or a large paint filter or the cheesecloth is the best way to filter it if you need to get rid of particles and things. Now we're going to go to ImPRESSive Putty, and then we're going to come back to the ComposiMold. So, the ImPRESSive Putty is ImPRESSive, that's why it's called ImPRESSive. We first had a remold putty, but people did that. It was too engineering a term, so we came up with a different name. So, still reusable, still no mixing A and B together. It's microwavable. The only thing that I don't like about the ImPRESSive Putty is it has a greasiness to it, and that's from the activator that's in it. It's the activator is a glycerin water solution, which allows it to solidify over and over again. That's the key to it. So it gets a little slimy. Just wipe it off with a paper towel or something, and it's no problem. The advantage to that also is that it works as a mold release, so you don't need to add any mold releases to this to work it. So the other advantage one of the advantages of the ImPRESSive Putty is you don't need a mold box. You just the problem with the ImPRESSive Putty is it's ridiculously easy. So doing a demonstration of it is press it. Oh, there we go. Putty can also handle higher temperature. Oh, I didn't go through that. ComposiMold melts at about 130 degrees Fahrenheit. If you want to do higher temperature materials than that, the key to that is to chill it. So you can do beeswax, you can do most paraffin waxes, soy waxes, soaps. But if you chill the mold first, when you pour in the wax or the soap or even higher temperature fast curing resin, it'll solidify first before the ComposiMold gets a chance to heat up to the temperature. So this is higher temperatures. What reminded me of is that ImPRESSive Putty can handle about 180 degrees Fahrenheit. I've been starting to use ImPRESSive Putty for lost wax process. So they'll use the microcrystalline waxes. They'll mold the microcrystalline wax and then use that in the sand casting process. And it's pretty cool. And it'll handle typically the microcrystalline waxes. Look at that, he's got it already. Oh, there's the whole thing right there. Press it.
Oh, so what did he do?
He pressed it just press it right over.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Press, you can do it with the putty. You can do it either way. You can push your part into it, or you can do that. The number one thing is to make sure you get the lines out first.
Yeah.
So when you push it, those won't cut. And so that's the whole thing about ImPRESSive Putty. It's super simple. Press it. Cook it. This was a 1 pounder. What did we stuck it in for 2 minutes, right? 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Melted it. It's going to be really hot initially, so give it some time afterwards to cool. You can actually use this at room temperature, and then with a refrigerator, we'd stick that in the refrigerator freezer, and it'd be done in in 5-10 minutes.
So this is the
That is the finished thing. Yep. So another advantage of ImPRESSive Putty, and I got this just like this. See how this has holes in it?
Yeah.
If you did that with the ComposiMold or a pourable mold make material, it would go through. And you could do it, or you could either back this up with clay and do one side and the other side. For the putty, is you just that and it'll be finished. Because I didn't have enough. And literally that's the whole process. Yeah. So that's what's cool is now if I wanted to do this as a 2-part mold, I'm going to let this solidify. Then I'm going to take some more of this. After this is hardened, I can now take some more putty, press it on there because it already has the activator on it, the mold release. It won't stick to itself. If this is cool, and I'm putting some more stuff on it, so then I can make a 2-part mold just like that. Definitely recommend freezer.
But it stays dimensionally stable.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So far, anything we've been able to measure, there hasn't been any. Maybe if we get into the. Yeah.
So with something like that piece with the holes in it, you need to worry about how far it gets pressed through the hole.
You could, yes. Yes, something to keep in mind is that you could actually squeeze it all the way through, and if it does, you can just cut it off with an X-Acto knife or a razor blade or something if you needed to. And that probably is better to doing it that way because then you know that when you put the A and B side together, they kind of hit each other. So that might be a positive way of doing it. Because ImPRESSive Putty is so ridiculously easy, that's the whole process. When we go back to more complicated or going to the more complex mold making scaffold, now you want to do something that doesn't fit in a mold box. Relatively flat. This is my example. And we're going to do a brush on or pour on mold making. You can do more, as complicated as you want. It wants to be pretty flat though because it's not going to have the flexibility, or it's going to have too much flexibility. So you want to be able to set it down on a flat surface afterwards. You can also back that up with clay afterwards or something like if you're doing something more complicated. The advantage of this is there's no mold box. So what's nice, with a brush on, if you let it cool a little bit, when you pour it on, you'll get a thicker version right after that. So you want to do one layer, let it solidify, and then do another layer. And you want to build up maybe a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, depending on how big your part is. And you could brush it on, but pouring on works just as well. If you're doing something up in the ceiling, I'd use ImPRESSive Putty. Or you could brush on your ComposiMold, let it solidify. So it's not very thick. It's just a small thin layer. At this point.
Sorry, can I?
Yes,
so if you are doing something up on the ceiling or on the wall or something, can you layer it?
Yes, exactly.
So you brush on, layer it, and build it up like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so brush it on so it's pretty thin initially, and at that point take a toothpick or something to make sure you get all the bubbles out of it. And that'll solidify pretty fast because it's so thin. It'll solidify fast, and then another layer and another layer. And you can build it up pretty quickly. And as this cools, it's going to pour a little bit thicker. So after the first layer and the second layer, you're going to pour a 1/4 inch almost in one setting. So it's going to be pretty fast. This process is almost faster in some cases than putting it in a mold box. So that's the brush on one. The next one is the cut block method. This is the cut block method is the way that we'll use for pretty much anything. It's just like the 1-part mold, except you cut down the sides of it. So we pour it, and we want to get this. We want to cast a soft cast material. So if we're doing a chocolate or a candle, we want this. We don't want to put a lot of pressure on this owl when we pull it out of the mold. So what we're going to do is cut the block. We're going to cut down the side of it. And so we want to cut the container off, then take the mold and cut down the side of it, and that's the whole thing. It still has a flat bottom on it, but it's more complicated. And that's how we did this guy. Is we cut down the side of it, cut between the legs, and separate it into parts. You want to keep the molds, if you can, connected a little bit, so that when you put them back together again, they line up. So you don't have, you hear a lot of people putting in tags into it. You just keep it together a little bit and line it up. Tape your mold together with a piece of tape, and that's the whole That's the cut block method. You notice the edge of this is the actual outside of the mold blocks is really crinkly and stuff. We use aluminum foil as our mold blocks because they wouldn't quite fit into anything that we had. So I just took aluminum foil, 2 or 3 layers of aluminum foil, and built it up and made a mold blocks around it. What you'll know that's done is when you know the ImPRESSive Putty is done is when you press on it, it doesn't deform.
Okay.
It stays where it is. So.
Okay.
I want to pull, and that's another important thing is when you're doing the soft casting materials, pull the ComposiMold, which is flexible, away from the casting material, which isn't. If you're doing plastic, no big deal, you can just squeeze it right out. 2-part molds, like normally I just say pour it and cut it, and use a cut block method. So pretty much, I'd say 85 to 90% of what you're going to do, the cut block method is going to be the way to do it. If you wanted to go all the way around something with the cut block method, pour a little bit of ComposiMold on the bottom of a container, let that solidify, put your object in it. You can see that's a good object. So put them in there, now pour ComposiMold around that, and now you've surrounded the whole thing, and then you can cut it out because it's transparent, you can see where you're cutting the line, and you can still use the same cut block method that you need to do. If you want to add in, if you wanted to add a place in to pour in the resin, what's cool is you can either cut it out with a knife, or you can use a hot glue gun and make a line where you pour in the resin. So you can make it as complex. If you wanted to add different screws in different locations, you can do that. But most of the cases, the cut block method. In some cases, if you want the parting line to be up and around, so if this guy had an arm this way and this way, we could have the parting line go up, down his arm, up this way, and we could make that as complicated of a parting line as we wanted to by building up around it, around the edges. Take some clay, build up around it, put the parting line where you want it to be, spray it with a little bit of vegetable oil as a mold release, and that's a good idea. Put the parting line where you want it to be, pour that layer on, let that solidify. Now we have our first half of the mold. I added a little notch in the clay so that they'll line up. So now I'm going to chill this in the refrigerator, spray it with a little bit of vegetable oil as a mold release, and then I'm going to pour the ComposiMold on top of that. And because this is cool, ComposiMold pouring on it won't stick to this with the mold release and the coolness of it. So it'll look really scary initially. Go, oh no, it's sticking, because they'll look identical. Both layers look identical. But you'll end up getting a 2-part mold. Now, how will we do some castings? If those are ready, tear off the cup. All right, so now just pull it right out. Pull your original, your master, out of the mold. How about we do a little rubber guy? So we'll use a silicone because that hardens in like 5 minutes. This is our soft baked rubber. Only one of these little things will do about a gallon worth of resin. You have to. All right, you guys have your molds ready? Now, take your finger and press to try to get it over into those little areas. So you press on the mold, it'll do it. I'm going to hurry through because I'm not sure if I'll get it all done. So you get those antlers. Ooh. One is learn how to pour. Use instead of finger, you can also use one of those to press. Try to get it to fill in those little areas where it's covered up. Squeeze, yeah.
And then try flatten the bottom?
Try to squeeze it into the head if you can. Hey, why don't you guys grab another mold so we can make a chocolate one? All right, I think our chocolate is ready.
Injection molding?
Yes, we're injection molding chocolate. Let's try this. It may or may not work. ComposiMold and chocolate are nice together because the chocolate is also reusable.
Because there's chocolate left.
I was gonna
Yes.
say,
Yes. Right.
around my house, the chocolate thing, that would be
Yeah.
really
Try to
cool.
squeeze that in. This works pretty well.
Oh, look at that.
And then tap those a little bit, mold a little bit, just to any air bubbles come too long. Find an edge. How'd it come out?
No, it came out fine. Looks just like an ammonite.
Nice. So now you guys are official mold makers. You guys have made your own molds. Certified mold. Yeah, you guys have done the first simple mold. Now you can build up into more complicated. So do something that's taller, maybe as the next stage, and something with one hole in it, something like a hole somewhere in it, and then you do as complicated as you want.
So I do a lot of dabbled in like epoxy resin molding, and I know that heats. So I was curious about your products and reacting to products that heat as they cure, because
Yes.
they're, I guess you said like they should melt at a certain temperature.
Right.
What do you recommend?
For epoxies, I go with one that goes overnight.
Okay.
Cure time. If you do something fast, like if you do a super fast urethane, like what the 1 or 2 minute one, you can do up to about this size, like chilling the mold first.
Gotcha.
And then also, if you put it into the refrigerator freezer while it's chilling, you'll slow down the casting process. And then, so epoxies are great for this, is because you're going to slow it down. So instead of 5-minute epoxy, it'll take 15 minutes, which will give it enough time to harden, and then you can still do it. So you can still get away with it up to about this size with the fast curing resins. If you do this big, there's actually a guy who does these big castings on it. What he does, the couple things he does is he puts things in it, which is really cool. He uses a clear resin. He doesn't use our resin. He uses somebody else's resin. And he puts, like he did a Homer Simpson. He put little donuts in it,
Oh, that's cool.
and so you can see all the donuts inside his brain as
Oh,
it's doing
I would
hilarious.
say stomach.
Yeah. And then he pours in intervals, like in different colors. So he has some Buddhas that he has in. It's sort of like he sort of use his as an example. So it's something similar to that, different intervals of colors that you can mix together. So you can pour in intervals to get as big as you want. So even this big you could do, this is pour and enough to pour. Again, another way, if you're doing something really big, is to coat it, let that solidify, and then that will create a barrier so that when you do the inside layers, you can do that as well.
So, I have a question. Could you, if you were doing chocolate, could you do a hollow chocolate?
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. Yes.
Like the Easter Bunny kind of thing?
Yes.
That's cheap.
I got my reason.
That's this. So we're gonna make a hollow. To use up the chocolate, we're gonna make a hollow Lego here. Actually, this one. Yep. Basically,
You're just going to coat the sides.
coat the sides of it. Yeah, exactly. And what's nice about chocolate is it's gonna hit the sides and it's gonna solidify and it's gonna stay. And you're gonna get a layer of it. And maybe, of course, I didn't put enough more chocolate. Yeah. And what's cool about this, like if you're doing a peanut butter cup, do this, and then put the peanut butter inside of it, or marshmallow inside of it, and then put a back layer of it. And we can do it basically as complex as if you're doing this guy's hand and you want to make a hollow, that's a little tough, but something like that would be pretty ideal for it.
I could make hollow ping pong balls.
Yes, you can make hollow ping pong. Actually, what'd be cool about that is you make your ping pong ball. You know how we're talking about this right here? Put the ping pong ball in on top of some composite mold, pour it on top of it, and then cut it. So it's a cut block mold. Pour chocolate into that, and you don't even need to add any screws to it. You just put those two parts together, do this, and it's going to be a hollow. You'll see the parting line, which you're going to see. If you want to get rid of that with chocolate, just use your finger and it goes away. Use a hairdryer or something, and it'll actually melt it, right? And you can actually get rid of the parting line. So that'd be perfect for the ping pongs. Yeah. So, any other questions?
Thank you for watching. I know that's a lot of mold making information, so we also have an ebook available.
Go to ComposiMold.com to the Learn page and download your own free ebook, setting you up for mold making and casting success. Have a great day.